The economy is struggling right now. Commentators, including ourselves, have been sounding the alarm about how this is affecting the trucking industry. The amount of small fleet and owner-operators shutting down their businesses as of late is nothing short of concerning. Despite many politicians and pundits doing everything they can to not have to use the word recession, America has now had 2 back-to-back consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, which fits the definition of recession perfectly. Many will try to argue that it's only a recession if the National Bureau of Economic Researchers declares it so. However, ask the average family who's had their groceries skyrocket while simultaneously struggling to fill their mid-sized car, or better yet, ask the owner-operator who just had to spend $1,000 to fill the truck they paid a premium for in the used market last year, while getting paid around $2.50 a mile, which is about $1 less than just a few months ago. Over the course of this video, we're going to go over how and why so many truckers are hitting major economic roadblocks. If you have any tips on how you've kept your head above water during all of this, I'm sure our fellow drivers would love to hear, so we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up to date with the world of trucking, and let's get into it. A very common theme during this freight market landslide is owner-operators jumping in and out of large fleets. Some are even shutting down their businesses altogether in an effort to stop the financial bleeding. This behavior is quite common after spot rates in the trucking industry soar. Many owner-operators leave the safety and stability of large fleets in order to chase more profitable spot market rates. However, when the rates collapse, like we've seen, owner-operators try to return to large fleets for more predictable volumes and revenues. Avery Weiss, the vice president of research at the FTR Trucking Intelligence, has mentioned that this is understandable seeing as diesel prices are through the roof right now and the spot market often doesn't give drivers the benefit of fuel surcharges. These would allow them to protect themselves against loss should the price of fuel rise during the terms of a contract. On the other side of the coin, company drivers don't typically have to worry about fuel price. With the demand dropping for trucking, the power is finding its way back into the shippers' hands. Not all large enterprise trucking fleets have been increasing their independent contractors or local truck count. This is an issue for drivers trying to find a home under a company banner. For instance, Knight-Swift Transport, which was the 5th largest trucking company in the United States as of 2018, reported in its 2022 second quarter earnings report that the company's fleet since 2021 has remained nearly the exact same size, only increasing 0.1%, a total of just 21 drivers.
Guys, I just wanted to take a quick minute to thank all of you for your messages, your comments, and your emails. I wanted to help some of you out by answering a question that I get asked all the time about high-paying trucking jobs. If you are searching for a high-paying trucking job, look no further than to our friends over at Vista Trans. They are currently recruiting drivers and their pay rates are insane. 85 cents for flatbeds, 75 cents for reefers, and 65 cents for their dry van division. Vista Trans currently runs over 350 power units, and you can work out of one of their 4 terminals in Illinois, New Jersey, Florida, and in Texas. All you have to do is fill out this form below, and this form will directly go to their HR manager. I don't know how much longer those rates are gonna last, but fill out that form below, and now back to that video.
Right now, we're seeing a lot of large trucking companies starting to expand and experiment with other modes of transportation, such as intermodal, meaning a combination of trucking and rail, and less than truckload shipping, or LTL for short, which is moving freight in the sizes between individual parcels in full truckloads. During this 1-year span where Knight-Swift didn't grow their semi-fleet, the company had 2 major LTL acquisitions. One of AAA Cooper for the hefty price of $1.35 billion, and Midwest Motor Express for $150 million. So you can see these large carriers are starting to invest in other areas. This is not a good scenario for the drivers who want to hop over to a large company like Knight-Swift. And unfortunately, there are a lot of them. From July 2020 to just before the summer, just shy of 200,000 new carriers entered the market, and about 70% of those were just one truck. The previous record for a 23-month period before that was just 86,000 carriers, so this new record is nearly double any historic one. This flood of new carriers sent ripple effects all throughout the industry. However, it wasn't just that rates and volumes skyrocketed with these additions, but where they skyrocketed, the spot market. The spot market typically accounts for 10 to 20% of the overall trucking market, but Vice of FTR thinks that share may have climbed as high as 50% in the height of the pandemic spending craziness. One of the biggest hurdles small trucking companies are facing at the moment is the insane cost of doing business. Truckstop.com recently released a report in which they found it's 51% more expensive to run a trucking company in 2022 than last year. This is something that weighs most heavily on small carriers. A lot of drivers have shut down simply because they can't keep up with the cost of diesel. David Guzman, a driver from San Antonio, experienced this firsthand. In an interview with FreightWaves, Guzman said, quote, "The way rates are, you have to run twice as hard just to make ends meet. I can't help but feel for my fellow truck drivers." Although diesel isn't the only price that has risen. The price of a 3-year-old used truck has nearly doubled since last year and nearly tripled since 2020. Drivers who purchased used semis last year are most likely still paying off loans on those trucks, while also dealing with a nearly 9% rise in the cost of repairs. Another sign of capacity leaving the market is the aggressive rise in revocations of trucking authority. This is when owner-operators cancel their permit or right to transport goods or passengers for hire across state borders. According to FMCSA data, there are just over 6,000 revocations taking place in the months leading up to September, which is nearly 6 times the amount occurring at this time last year. It's also noteworthy that the industry is experiencing roughly double the amount of revocations as the beginning of the pandemic. Despite some of the major trucking companies not increasing their small fleets, Avery Vice of FTR is less certain of the effect this will have on the industry, saying, quote, "A surge in failures probably would have little effect on overall trucking capacity. Most of these carriers' drivers probably will stay in the industry and simply move on to larger carriers, either as leased owner-operators or company drivers. Rather than loss of capacity, consider this more as a shift of capacity from spot to contract." I must say though, the whole notion that this is just the market balancing itself out, which Vice has mentioned, is definitely one of the most optimistic takes I've heard. Not everyone is convinced. ACT's trucking index seems to paint the picture that trucking conditions have been quickly deteriorating. Carter Veith, a research associate at ACT, noted in a recent report, quote, "The reading shows volumes continuing to contract, as sustained inflation and high fuel prices erode consumer confidence. Substitution effects are an important factor weighing down freight volumes as consumers choose travel instead of goods spending." Vice went on to talk about the supply and demand balance, noting that it, quote, "reflects loosening in the trucking market and a late stage in the freight cycle. With improving capacity and slowing freight volumes, the pendulum has finally swung from tight to loose. Recent entrants reliant on spot rates will struggle, and their exit will set up the next tight market." As capacity started increasing and demand decreasing in the beginning of 2022, geopolitical events such as the war in Ukraine and China's extreme lockdown policies have helped create a situation in which the spot rates have become no longer sustainable. The most important trend to watch for in the immediate future is if volumes and spot rates level out or if they continue to crash. There's no shortage of people who think what we're seeing happen to small truckers right now is an omen for bad things to come on a larger scale. Many are forecasting a massive economic recession, as even ocean volumes of freight are beginning to collapse. While some drivers have been able to successfully rejoin a larger fleet, that's not the case for many. We could potentially see fleets decide that they have too many drivers. However, some drivers have decided to lease their trucks back to those companies where they can reap the benefits of fuel surcharges in order to underwrite diesel payments. It seems though that these drivers might be the lucky ones. Those who have already sold their trucks were able to benefit from inflated used truck prices, which are now quickly declining. But with that, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Have you been able to survive this roller coaster? If so, I'm sure there are many looking to hear a few tips and tricks. For those that are finding the market to be too rough, what's your next steps or exit plan? Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up to date with new content, and we'll catch you next time.